Building apps, coding, can feel incredibly overwhelming for both non-coders and coders alike. Thankfully, we now have artificial intelligence, tools like Google AI Studio that help you build out your ideas and generate the code for you. I've been using Google AI Studio to build apps and customize my website in ways that would have taken me months or years to do without AI. The best part is that as I use Gemini 2.5 Pro in Google AI Studio to code for me, one of the best LLMs out there for coding, not only is it coding for me, I also learn how to code along the way, which produces a really beautiful feedback loop where it's coding for me and teaching me at the same time so that I can learn to code better. In today's video, I'll walk you through a practical example of how I use Google AI Studio to turn my website into a mini app, into an application, so that you get an idea on how I'm actually using these tools to turn my ideas into a reality. Hi, my name is Callum, also known as Wanderloots, and welcome to today's video on practical use of Google AI Studio, how I convert my Obsidian Digital Garden website into an application using Gemini 2.5 Pro to code for me. Google AI Studio is an incredibly powerful tool. I'm excited to show you more about it because I've already used it to build 2 applications and a custom image generator. In the last video, I gave a complete overview of Google AI Studio, showing you and walking you through all of the features. But today I wanted to show an actual practical use of how I'm actually using this tool. Today, I'll walk you through how to add a massive amount of context to Google AI Studio from documentation websites, how to structure your prompts to get Gemini 2.5 Pro to code for you so you can customize your website while learning what you're doing along the way, how to use VS Code and GitHub Desktop to build a safe test environment for your coding, how to test out your new mini app using ngrok and the Farcaster debugging tool to make sure that the app is working properly, and finally, how to merge your tested website changes to your main website so that it's ready to share with others. I know that this sounds like a lot, but using tools like Google AI Studio and Gemini 2.5 Pro make it so much easier to build out these types of applications. I never would have been able to do this if it weren't for these AI tools. I also want to quickly note that in the next video, I'm going to walk you through how I build that custom image generator that I was talking about so that you can understand how you can begin customizing your website sharing previews, your open graph images, in a way that makes them much more appealing when you're sharing on social media or in texting or other places. A reminder that if you find this video helpful, I would love if you would please consider liking and subscribing. I'm working on building up YouTube to be my full-time career, so any support is very much appreciated. Now let's dive into using Google AI Studio to code for me, converting my website into a mini app. Before we get into using the studio itself, I just wanted to quickly outline what the goal is for today, converting my Obsidian Digital Garden website into a Farcaster mini app. And I want to note that this process of using Google AI Studio to code for you, this will work for any website, for any type of customization, not just digital gardening or Farcaster mini apps. So if you're not interested in either of those, this process will still be applicable to you. Digital gardening. A digital garden is a place for me to share my thoughts, ideas, and my notes from my Obsidian vault. It's kind of like a single player mode that's an alternative to social media, where I can just write privately in Obsidian and then publish the notes to my digital garden, my website, selectively. I'm using a digital garden for today's example because it's one of the best ways that I've found to actually get my thoughts and my ideas out there. I can write in private in Obsidian and then publish those notes to my digital garden so that I can share selected portions of my vault with other people. You can kind of think of it like an ever-changing blog. But I wanted to be able to take those ever-changing blog posts and share them with people so that I don't have to think about social media posting. I can just use what I'm already building in my digital garden. The GitHub repository that I'm starting off with in today's video actually came from using the digital garden plugin to build my website, which I walk through in much more detail in the video on how to build a digital garden. But if you're looking for more context on what a digital garden is, I also have an explainer video that walks through what a digital garden is and why you should care about it, why it's a great alternative to something like social media. If digital gardening is single player mode, Farcaster makes it multiplayer. Farcaster is a decentralized social media platform that enables mini apps, or frames. Mini apps are links that are shared within the Farcaster ecosystem, where they're converted into an application that you can actually view directly within the social feed. So rather than just getting that preview image like I was talking about before, you can actually click a button and you get access to the entire app. This makes it an awesome tool for being able to share portions of my digital garden in public to get the distribution that a social media platform like Farcaster enables. It's honestly one of the most powerful ways that I've come across for distributing my digital garden writing and my art. By sharing the digital garden as a mini app on Farcaster, I can take the work that I'm already doing in my digital garden, that cultivation, and share it to my social feed where I'm already building an audience. It's kind of a best of both worlds where I can keep focusing on writing for myself and then selectively choose to share it if I want to. So in other words, what I'm doing today is I'm going to be converting my Digital Garden website into a mini app for sharing on Farcaster. That way I can write in Obsidian in my personal knowledge management system, publish the note to my Digital Garden website, and then share that note as a website, as a complete application within the Farcaster feed directly. So now that you actually understand more of the context and why I'm doing this and what my goals are, let's actually get into building this application using Google AI Studio. Now you can kind of think of a mini app as exactly that, an application that can operate within an existing social media structure. For example, there is the reward mini app where I click a button on here or on my phone and it keeps track of my performance across the whole Farcaster ecosystem. And then the reward tiers, they give out a certain amount of money to the top, I believe, 2,400 people or so. So you can see the top 10 people get $300, the next 20 get 100, next 200 get 25, and the next 300 get $10. So based on your performance on Farcaster, it's able to pull in your data and then display what your current score is. So that's one example of a mini app. Another example is the Paragraph mini app. This is a newsletter platform that I use. So you can go right into here and you can browse across the entire Paragraph ecosystem, kind of like Substack. You can actually click and then read the articles directly within your feed. And again, it's shaped like this because it works perfectly on mobile. And it also gives you the option to, for example, subscribe directly within the app. Another example is I can go and I can listen to podcasts through the Pods app. There's really no end in what can be done here. Any type of application, any internet system at all can be run as a mini app. So that's kind of the why mini app. Like I have here at wanderlust.xyz, I want to take it so that I can copy this URL in any post I share, whether it's this one about digital gardening or my homepage or any pieces of writing that I have. I want to be able to share an article on Farcaster, on Warpcast here, and have it pop up like a frame as just like the Paragraph one, but built entirely on my own website. So I've been trying to do this for a long time and honestly really been struggling. But today, for the first time, I was actually able to build this entire frame using artificial intelligence, using Google's AI Studio with the new Gemini 2.5 Pro model. And honestly, I've been incredibly impressed with this. I am super surprised with how well it works. It took me about an hour, I would say, maybe an hour and a half. But now that I understand what's happening, I'm going to quickly walk you through what I did to get to the test phase and got it to do this, to work. You can see here, I can open it and it actually pulls up my entire digital garden in the same way that I have it here. It has converted my digital garden into a mini app where I can go through and I can click on and engage with any type of information in here. It pulls up exactly the same instance of my website, my digital garden at wanderlust.xyz, but it's done in mini app form. This is really powerful because now I can introduce, for example, subscribe buttons. I can introduce wallet connect functionality. I can introduce tipping if someone wants to tip me for the work that I'm doing in writing this. There's so many things I can do. It effectively converts your website into a distribution mechanism that can be shared across a social media feed like Warpcast, which is just wildly underrated as a way to build out your brand, build out your digital identity, and build out your ecosystem as a whole. So before I go and make this actually live, I'm going to quickly walk you through how I got to this point here where I could take my digital garden and modify it so that it's able to be viewed as this Farcaster mini app or V2 frame. So everything I have here, I'm going to include in the YouTube description so you can get access to it and it will be able to help you get going to convert your digital garden from Obsidian or another website into a Farcaster mini app, a V2 frame. So the tools we're going to need today are a GitHub account, which I have here. We're going to need some type of website repository. So for myself, that's my digital garden here on my GitHub profile. You can see this is my existing repository. And I got this by using Obsidian, the note-taking app, connecting it to the digital garden plugin, which you can see here. And I'm able to, every time I go in and publish a note from Obsidian, I go, for example, to my digital garden home and I click this dpublish equals true button. It automatically pushes this file to my GitHub folder. So that's a really powerful way to connect Obsidian directly to your GitHub repository and to then use what's called a static website builder to read the GitHub repository here and build my website like you see it here. So all of this happens in the backend once you get it set up. I actually have a full tutorial on how this can be done here on my YouTube channel, how I publish my Obsidian Notes website for free. And I also have an explainer video on what a digital garden is. So if you're interested in learning more about the philosophy or the practice of digital gardening, how you can begin converting your digital garden files, the specific selected files in Obsidian, into your website at your own custom domain, then I recommend checking out this tutorial because that'll walk you through step-by-step how to get everything going. But for today's video, I'm going to assume that you already have a website. So then once the static website builder as part of the Digital Garden plugin works, it operates, you then point using a hosting provider, that repository, that website that has been built to a particular host. So this could be Netlify, like I've been using here. You can see I've got my wanderloots.xyz file here, which deploys GitHub with eleventy. No matter what your hosting provider is, this should work for you to take any of your Obsidian notes, publish it to your Digital Garden website as part of your GitHub account, build it using eleventy, host it on Netlify, and then what we're going to do today is convert that format to transform this URL here into a mini app. So there's a few more tools you need for this. I personally have been using GitHub Desktop because this helps me to keep track of pushing my files in between the GitHub remote repository that's online and my desktop. You need ngrok here. So you can download GitHub Desktop. It's free and very, very easy to use. So I'm not going to show you how to download that right now because it's quite intuitive, though please let me know if you have any questions. And then also you're going to need something called ngrok. If you go to ngrok.com and click Get ngrok, there's a few different options on the side here for you to get the type of system that you're going to need to run. For example, Mac OS, Windows, Linux, etc. And there's going to be two different ways to download and install it. You can either download it and then run it within your terminal, or you can download Homebrew for a Mac. This is what I did. So basically, you can just install Homebrew into any of your terminals. This is what a terminal looks like. It's also known as the command line interface. And I know off the bat that this seems kind of scary to use. To be completely honest, I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer. So even though this is scary, you can figure it out, especially with the help of AI now. This is called vibe coding, which is what I've been doing all day to get this going. Yeah, this seems a little overwhelming at first, but you start to get the hang of it as you go through, and I'm going to walk you through step by step how to do it. But if you struggle with that at this point, I recommend asking AI, and it'll walk you through step by step. And basically what ngrok does is, you can see this here, ngrok allows me to test my new code to create basically a fake URL, but it's really a real URL. So we can use this to test our frame to make sure that it's working properly before I actually make changes to my main website. So this is just a good practice to get into to make sure I don't break what's already working. But I tested that and it works now. That's what has enabled me to show you this here. Basically what happens is when I run it, it's pulling the Digital Garden hosted on my local server through ngrok as a hosting platform and then displaying it here in the preview mini app to test to make sure it's working properly. So that's what we need ngrok for. And again, if any of this is confusing, I will explain more as we go. I'm just trying to give you a quick overview on all of the elements that we need to actually get going with building this mini app. Okay, and then another thing that you need is some kind of code editor. So I personally have been using VS Code. This is working really well for me. You could also use Cursor or another coding platform that has AI built into it, but for now I'm going to use a separate AI, and that's the next element here, which is actually using some type of artificial intelligence. So I'm using Google AI Studio, which just released the Gemini 2.5 Pro. And I've tried this with different LLMs in the past, but it didn't work. I couldn't get anything to work and I got super frustrated. So I highly recommend checking out Google AI Studio. The Gemini 2.5 Pro was incredibly powerful and I've been super happy with it. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. Then one more thing you need for the AI part is if you go to miniapps.farcaster.xyz and docs, under the Getting Started section, there's a Building with AI tool. So you can either click Ask in ChatGPT, and this will automatically open a new ChatGPT and give you the context of that particular text file. But I'm not using that today because I'm using Gemini. What you can also do, and this is what I did, is you can open the full LLMs text, the TXT file, and that takes that entire website as one single file and gives you a really low size file that you'll be able to drop into Google Gemini. So that's one thing. And then the other one is at this GitHub repo. Again, I'll include all these links in the description. JC4P is someone on Farcaster who decided to do incredible work and build out instructions specifically for LLMs, how they can understand the Farcaster frame documentation and build it in an effective way to convert your existing content, your existing website, and turn it into a mini app. So this is incredibly helpful and I appreciate it a lot, JC4P, thank you. Okay, and then the final thing we need here is you need to have a Farcaster account. Mine is Callum Wanderloots, wanderloots.eth. And I've been using Farcaster for just over a year, and it is by far my favorite social media platform ever. There's a ton of benefits. I wrote a few articles on how this works and why I think it's such a powerful tool. It's not run by Twitter, X, or Google, or Meta, or some other walled garden. Instead, it's a protocol that's separate from the social media platform. So even if you dislike the way that the user interface is displayed here, you can always take all of your followers and all of your content and just shift it to a different social media platform. You can get signed up here, and if you're interested, let me know, and I can send you an invite code so you don't have to pay the startup fee. You can get this by subscribing to my newsletter and then reaching out and letting me know that you're looking for a Farcaster access code, and I will get you one. It's only a couple dollars to sign up for the year, so it's not that much money, but if you're looking for a free one, please let me know and I will send it to you. All right, okay, so I think we have basically everything we need now to get started. You need to get your Digital Garden repository. So this is step one, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna take all the files in here and create a zip folder, and I'm gonna feed this into Google Gemini 2.5 and give it the context of how my website is built. So this is why, for myself, because I'm using this Digital Garden plugin, it automatically creates the folder for me. It automatically creates all the files and all of the templates so that my notes can be just directly converted into my website. So you can just go to your GitHub repo. Again, if you do not have this yet, I recommend watching this video here on how I publish my Obsidian Notes website for free, because that'll get you to this step one. But what we can do to the code here is we can just click download zip. So I downloaded that zip file here, and what I did was I removed my vault. So if you can see here, if I go into my SRC, if I go to site, notes, there's a vault folder. This has all of my notes along the whole side of my Digital Garden here. And that's a lot larger of a file size. And the AI doesn't need all of this. Really what it's looking for specifically, if we go on the side here, if we go to includes, there's a layouts folder here. And basically within this layouts folder, there's what's called an index file and a note file. So the index file is what builds the home page here, and the note file is what builds the generic note. So the index basically just says, oh, this is the home file, this is what you want to be displayed at your main URL, and the note file shows you how a particular note looks like here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be modifying how these notes are laid out so that there's a hidden component called a meta tag that tells Farcaster, when you include a URL like wanderloots.xyz, that there's something here that will convert this into a frame. So that's just a little context for showing you what files we're going to be talking about in a moment. That's this index.njk and note.njk. And then the final file we're going to be touching here is called this eleventy.js, which basically takes the GitHub files, passes it through this build file here, this static website generator to tell the website how it could be built, and then this gets displayed on Netlify or Orbiter or some other platform. But I'll get more into that in a moment. So the next step is we're going to actually take all of this and add the context to the AI in Google AI Studio. Context effectively is just all the different files, and all of the files get broken up into a whole bunch of little chunks that get tokenized, it's called. And then that provides a certain amount of available information for the LLM to read, to access using what's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation. I talk more about RAG in my Obsidian video, how to add AI to Obsidian to have a free and private local AI. With smart connections. So if you're interested in learning more about how LLMs work in the context of your knowledge base in Obsidian, I recommend checking out that video. And you can see on the side here, when I dropped in a bunch of context, the token count went up. So one thing that's cool about Google AI Studio is that you have a million token context. So I dropped in probably around 1,000 files here, and it's only a third of the context window. So there is a lot of stuff you can drop in here. You can drop your entire website and then get Gemini 2.5 to analyze your website to give you custom answers on how to build out this mini app. So I told it I'm going to drop in some context files. I told it just to respond with why after each file is added so that it can understand, and every answer increases the context. So I tried to keep the LLM's response to as brief as possible. So first I dropped in the Farcaster mini apps LLM full RTF. That's what I got from here with this mini app page. Then I dropped in my Digital Garden here. That's this GitHub repository, but with the vault, all of my notes removed. So that just gives it the build context, so it understands how my website is constructed. And then I dropped in the JC4P frames LLM docs here. So just for context, no pun intended, you can see this one was 13,000 tokens. My website was 250,000 tokens, and the mini apps full RTF or TXT file was 22,000 tokens. So the biggest file so far has been my Digital Garden repository, even with all of those notes removed from it. Okay, so then the next thing I did, the next step, is I wanted to give it context for what I was trying to do. So I basically just wrote a guide on how to do this that I'm going to add to my Digital Garden website to help you follow along with this process and get access to the code that I'm using. So I walked the AI through what my goal was. I'm trying to convert my Digital Garden, which is built using the Digital Garden plugin in Obsidian, to push to GitHub, thereby creating an 11D site build hosted on Netlify into a Farcaster v2 frame, also known as a mini app. And this is important. I told the AI to assume I do not know how to code. I want the answers to exactly tell me where to copy and paste code, so I'm not doing any coding myself. So for myself, that's kind of key here because I don't want to have to try and guess. I want to be able to just know exactly which line do I go in and drop the code to make this application work. Okay, so now that you understand how the AI gets the context and how I prompted it to understand my goal here, rather than just walking you through what the AI gave me as an answer, because that might vary depending on how you have your website built, though this should work perfectly if you're using the Obsidian Digital Garden plugin. I'm going to now walk you through how I actually got all of this into my local computer and then began running it. So basically what I did is I went over to my Digital Garden repository on GitHub, and where you see this code button here, I can click Open with GitHub Desktop. And when you click on that, it takes you to your Digital Garden repository here. It downloads the file and then opens it on the GitHub desktop app. So you're seeing some changes here. Don't worry about that for the moment. What I want to show you is that this is the main repository, the current repository, Digital Garden here. And you can see I'm now under current branch Farcaster mini app. So this is not the main branch, which is what you originally get, but one that I created. So the first step with GitHub here is you want to go create here and type in Farcaster-mini app and then click new branch. And when you do that, that'll open the branch here. And once you create that new branch, I can't see it right now because my system is still running, but there's a button that says open in VS Code. So when you click on that button, it'll pull you over to VS Code or whatever your coding system is. And that will create a new folder here, which I had originally called Digital Garden Frame. You can call this whatever you want, but this will pull in all of your branch here. So you can see here, this is the same changes that have been made in this branch. That's what this little symbol is here, as what is being shown in the GitHub repo. I've got these 4 files that have been changed. So basically what this does is it lets you open VS Code and make changes to the files in here and then click save. And that save pushes the file into your GitHub repo over here, which then can be merged back to the main branch and then published to your website. So I hope that makes sense from a workflow perspective. What we're doing is we're using VS Code to make changes to the files. For example, like this index.njk and note.njk. Those are the layouts, remember, for my Digital Garden to show the home page on the index and then the note for each individual note. So by making changes in here, we can then save the files. That gets added to GitHub Desktop, and then we'll be able to push that so that it comes back to this main branch here and then updates my actual website. But before we do that, we want to test to make sure that it can actually run properly. You don't want to go in and then just break something on your main website and then have everything fail. So this is what branching does, is it allows you to create kind of an alternate universe of that code that you can test out. And then if the code ends up working perfectly, you can just merge it back to your main branch and everything will be working just fine. Again, I know that this can look pretty overwhelming. I do not blame you. I felt overwhelmed at first too, but I really want to emphasize that there's going to be very little coding that we're actually doing here, and the AI gives us everything we need to paste it in. So really, the key here that you have to understand is just how, for example, GitHub works and how VS Code can write files that go to GitHub, and then I'll get a little bit more into ngrok in a moment. So basically what we need to do here is we need to add a little tag into the hidden information on this website, so that when this URL gets pasted into a Farcaster client like Warpcast, it automatically recognizes how to display this. You can kind of think of it like, for example, when you go to text someone and you copy in a URL and then a preview image pops up from Instagram or from YouTube. Actually, YouTube's a good example. So for example, if I go grab my latest video, let's see, share, copy URL, and then I go over to Warpcast and I click new cast and I paste in that URL, see how this image pops up here? It pulls in the thumbnail, it pulls in the title. This is called an open graph display. So basically YouTube has within its data, within its hidden information, oh, every time someone shares a YouTube link, you can pull this image and pull this title. So a Farcaster frame basically does that as well, but instead of just pulling in the image and the title, it also pulls in a button that someone can click on. For example, if I go over to my Cal channel, which is kind of like a subreddit for sharing information on Warpcast, you can see that this read button pops up. So when I share a link into this cast, it automatically pulls up the image, the title, and the read button. And when I click read, it opens up the mini app. So basically what we're looking to do here is add that button. And the way that button is added is very similar to how YouTube displays something like I was just showing you. So let's go back to VS Code for a moment. So that's where we come here. We go over on the left-hand side here to see we have SRC. Open that, site includes, and layouts. And this just is how the actual pages are displayed. We can go over to the note file, and I'll show you the two changes I made. Basically, we found this head section right here. And so this is called the head open and the head close. And we just wanted to add a bit of information that will allow Farcaster to read that this is a frame, a mini app eligible website. So we add two tags here. We add a script and a meta name. So I'm not going to get too into detail on how this actually works because you don't really need to know. And honestly, your AI in Google Gemini 2.5 is going to be able to help you do this. So I'll just briefly kind of show you what this looks like. So the first that we paste in is this script here. And this is basically just bringing in the software developer kit from Farcaster frames. So this tells it, oh, hey, check that this is a Farcaster frame, start running the whole system. If you're interested in looking more into how it actually works, that's where you would want to go start reading through the docs. So I suggest doing that if you want to understand how, for example, SDKs work. And then the second one we want to introduce here is that meta name equals FC:frame. So this tells it to pull in a certain type of content, and I'll get more into this in a moment, but what we're going to do is it's pulling in, for example, what version it is, what image we want to display, what website's being displayed, what button we want to have, for example, like open note, launch frame. This is giving just a bunch of information here on how we want the mini app to look when it gets pasted into Farcaster. So the key here is you can see that there's a couple URLs here, and this is the part that you actually have to understand a little bit more. But this is all being pulled from, you can see it's got this ngrok-free app. So I'll explain that more in a moment. I just want to highlight that this is something that we will be changing. For example, you could just have this right now as placeholder URL ngrok or something like that, and we're going to swap it out later. So you can see there's a couple instances of this. There's the first one there, second one, a third one. So there's 3 versions of that in this note. So that's the first part, and this goes under the head. And you can see here when I highlight that, it automatically highlights here, so you can see where it starts and finishes, and this green bar shows you where I actually pasted it in. So that's the first input. So now if we scroll down, we get to the second part here, which is the body section. And this is where we're going to paste in the second script. So at the top in the header, we did the meta tag, so that displays how the image is going to look. And it also opens up the Farcaster SDK. So what this script is doing is checking to see if the frame SDK is loaded to make sure that it works properly, and then tell Farcaster that the app is ready to be shown. And if not, that there's something wrong and it broke. So basically that's all we need to do here is copy in this particular script and paste it just above the end of this note.njk at the body section. Then we do the same exact thing to the index because we want to show the home page as well as the frame. So same exact spot, we've got the head here and we want to paste this just above the head close. And it's that exact same script as what we just did for the note one. So you can just paste that in here and then go down to the bottom where there's the body section and see where the body ends. And we paste in this also exactly the same script. So honestly, pretty easy. The key here that you need to understand is that we will be coming back in and changing these URLs here, the ngrok URLs. So the next step is to go up to the site folder, and you want to right click on it and click new folder. And you want to insert a folder called well.well-known. And that's important to have the period in front. So period well-known. So this is a new folder within the site folder. And then within that folder, you can right click and click new file. And you need to add in what's called a farcaster.json file. So this is the code you'll paste in there and then click save. Also remember, every time you're doing these changes here, remember to click save before you close the file. And honestly, you can just paste this directly in there. And that's pretty much it, except for these URLs again. So you can see here how there's all of these ngrok URLs. So I just want to point this out because these are the URLs that you're going to be changing. And when you change them, same as within the note and the index and JK files, you don't change anything afterwards, like the favicon.svg or this image. All you're changing is the beginning part from HTTPS to the end with app here. So then you can save this file and close it. And now we get to the final step, which is going to the eleventy.js file, or period.eleventy.js. Click on that. And this one is actually how your website is being built. So this is a much bigger file. This is generating how your actual site reads your Obsidian files, how it wants to be displayed, converts it into HTML, and then sends this over to Netlify or Orbiter or whatever your host is to display it. So this is really how your site is being built. And there's one key element here, and it's honestly really easy. All we have to do is make sure that this well-known folder gets sent to the website build by eleventy.js. Because if we don't pass that folder through to the new website, then Farcaster can't read that Farcaster JSON file because it didn't actually get sent to the website build. So what we're going to do here is we're going to search, and there's something called Passthrough, that one. And you'll see there's a few pass-throughs in a row here. So pass-through image, pass-through scripts, pass-through styles. And basically what this is doing is when we actually build the website, like you can see up in this dist folder here, we're going to pass through the image and the style, and now the well-known folder. So what we do is we find the last pass-through, which could be src site styles, this one here, and then we're going to paste in this line of code right here, right beside this green line. So it's 11dconfig.add pass-through copy src/site/.wellknown. And that just takes this Farcaster JSON folder and passes it to the new website that we're building. And again, click Save and Close File. And that is it. We have now completely edited this website, my Digital Garden folder, to be ready for Farcaster. Now what we want to do is test to make sure that it worked and that it didn't break. This is where ngrok comes in. I'm going to close this down here, Digital Garden frame. All I have to do here is, if the terminal is not open, you can go up here and click Terminal and click New Terminal. And make sure that it's in your root folder here. So you can see here, mine's Digital Garden Frame. So whatever the name is of your entire folder, that's the folder we should be sitting in. And then what we need to do here is type in npm run start. And that goes through and it triggers the script, right? You can see here, there's 11d, it's writing dist, it's writing feed, it's writing graph. So the 11d file here that we just edited is now running this whole system to build up the website. And that can take a minute or two. Perfect, that's it. So now by typing in that npm run start, we just triggered a local server. So my computer is now operating as a server. And you can see here it's localhost 8080. So basically what we're trying to do here now is we have this instance of the website running on my computer, but we need to make it available to Farcaster, but Farcaster is already online. So again, I don't want to send them my current website here because this doesn't have all of that information that I just ran because we're running on a separate branch in GitHub. Instead, what I need to do is create an alternate instance of this that is run on my local server, but somehow sends it to Farcaster. And this is where ngrok comes in because it's called tunneling. You can see here in this mini app debug section, which I'll get more into in a moment, we have to paste in the home URL. So if I just pasted in waterloos.xyz, nothing would happen because all of the changes have been made on that new branch. So we need to copy in the URL from ngrok here. And this is that same URL that you saw pasted all throughout my code base. But at the moment, you don't have that yet. So you just have a placeholder. So we need to get this URL so that we can go back and paste it in and then serve this particular URL to the debug section of Warpcast. So let's get going with that. So basically we go over to terminal again, and all we need to do is type in ngrok http 8080. And that ngrok http 8080 is referencing specifically the VS Code localhost number here, the 8080. So whatever that number is, it could be 3000, it could be 8080, it could be really anything. You want to take that number and then you want to paste it in here. When you click enter, it pops up and it builds out this little window here. So this is ngrok. This is currently replacing effectively what Netlify or Vercel or Orbiter would do, but using it only locally so that no one else can access this except for you. So you can see here, there's this forwarding number, this forwarding address, and there's the HTTPS and an HTTP local host. What it's doing is it's creating a separate available URL that redirects to the local host so that Farcaster can read this URL but get shown what's being displayed on my local host. So this is where what we're going to need to do here is go and copy this URL, the HTTPS one. And now, once you have that copied, go back to all of the notes that we just changed here. So we go over to our note.njk, and wherever you have that ngrok, you can just search for it. We need to replace that URL with whatever the current URL is. So I've already done this. That's why it has the C160-142, etc. But whatever yours is being displayed here, copy that in and make sure you replace it exactly in every single place that it is. So you can just search for ngrok and then go through and replace each one. And when you replace it, remember, do not replace any of the slashes, only everything before the slash. So you can see here it has /image, /tree-2, etc. This one is page URL. So this one's going to pull in a specific page URL rather than just the home page. This one, image tree-1 again. So in each case, I have replaced it here. So that's going to happen in these 3 spots here in the note. It doesn't happen anywhere down here, so don't worry about it. And then save and close your note.njk. Go over to your index, search for ngrok, and do the same thing. Replace those 3 spots with the URL that you just copied over from ngrok. And remember to save and close. And then now we go over to farcaster.json. And here again, we replace all of these URLs just up until the point where the app portion ends with the current URL that we got from ngrok. Then you can save that file, and there's not anything you need to do on the 11d file. It's only the index, the note, and the farcaster.json. So now what we need to do is we need to press Command C or Control C, quit that server, and then we need to do npm run start again. Because what this is going to do is it's now going to take that URL and it's going to rebuild the whole website, but with the proper URL that we just got from ngrok. So you can see now that the server is running again, which means that it's being sent through to our ngrok tunnel to this particular URL. So what's cool here is if we go like this and we copy it, and we go back to our browser, I can paste in that app, and here we go. It's now serving a new instance of my digital garden at this URL in the same way that's currently being displayed at wanderloots.xyz on Netlify, but this is being done through ngrok. So now what we can do is we go over to the frame validator, otherwise known as the mini app debug. So here we go. I can paste in this mini app here, my URL that I just got from ngrok, and click open. And you can see that this is being displayed in the same way that this website from ngrok is being displayed, but the Farcaster debug tool on Warpcast here, I know that's confusing, they're consolidating names, I think, is reading that tag that we put in there in the head section of our note template and our index template, and it's telling it, oh hey, this is a valid Farcaster frame, let's display it in a mini app format instead of just a normal URL. Now, I just want to mention too that I tried this a couple times before I got it to work, and originally it didn't display here for a sec, it just stayed as that white screen. And then after about 10 minutes, I refreshed and did it again, and it worked fine. So what you might have to do is clear your cache, where you can go to settings, delete browsing data, and then you might have to clear your cache so that this system here can recognize that there's been a new URL, for example. But this is where you'll probably begin to notice problems, if there are any, depending on how your 11t site is built or whatever website builder you're using. Ask Google to run some troubleshooting for you. So I did this a couple times, and honestly, I was super impressed that Gemini 2.5 Pro was able to nail the troubleshooting problem on the first instance. I had about 4 errors, and each time it fixed it in one go. So I was incredibly impressed because in the past, even with Gemini 2, it wasn't able to do that. So now we get to the final step here. And this is the part that I haven't actually done yet. So because I can only really do this once, I wanted to show you as I was doing it live because I'm pretty excited to push this and get it going live. So basically what our final phase is here is we need to take everything that we've just done on VS Code that has been synced over to our local GitHub on our Farcaster mini app branch. And we need to merge all of these changes with our main branch so that my main website at wanderloots.xyz, hosted by Netlify, can build the website that now includes all of those edits that we made. So that's the next step here. And again, I asked the AI to walk me through that step. So you can see here, and I'll just go through step by step with you. We need to now transition from the working ngrok setup to a live verified Farcaster frame on my actual domain. Cool. So the first step here is to deploy our current code to Netlify. So I need to go over to my GitHub desktop. I should see the changes I've made to those 4 files. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that those 4 changes are here. And I need to enter a commit summary and then click commit to Farcaster mini app. Okay, so here we go. You can see that button, commit to Farcaster mini app. So I'm going to say add frame files and build config, modified to be Farcaster frame mini app. Click commit to Farcaster mini app. There we go. So it popped up and now there's no local changes. This is what I was saying earlier for how there's an option to open the repository in your external editor. So you can choose what editor you want to use here and you can click open in VS Code or whatever option you have set in your default. But now what we've just done here is we've committed this to the Farcaster mini app. And now we need to go to the next step, which is push it to GitHub. So we need to publish this branch to GitHub. So click publish there, pushing to origin. So now if we go back over to my digital garden here, you can see that Farcaster mini app had recent pushes 3 seconds ago. If I need to, which it is necessary here, I need to create a pull request from the mini app to main, review the changes, and then merge it. So it notes that if my hoster service, like Netlify, is building directly from the mini app branch, you can skip this, but mine doesn't. It runs on my actual main branch. So I need to now compare and pull request. You can see here that it's able to merge, and I'm going to click create pull request. Now it's checking. There we go. It says there's no conflicts. And let's let it run through to check to make sure it can be automatically merged. And again, what this is doing is it's taking my edits from VS Code in the Farcaster mini app branch, and it's merging that into my main website branch, into what will actually be displayed on my website, which is hosted on Netlify. So depending on how many notes you have, this can take a few minutes. I can always go back to my Wanderlust Netlify, click on it and see how it's going here. So you can see it's building. There we go. There's one successful. Now it's doing the second one. Perfect. There we go. So you can see that there were no issues. Let's click merge pull request, confirm merge. I'll just leave that for now. I can delete this later. Now if I go back to my code, you can see we're in main here, and there were these changes that have been made: add frame files and build config. So if I go into my SRC, go over to, for example, eleventy.js, search for pass-through, you can see that it's passing through that well-known. So this is the change you made on the local computer. And we have these layout components of index, which now has this frame section. Cool. And if we go back to my digital garden here and click refresh, everything works. No problems there. So that is great. That means everything's working properly. Now what we need to do, if you recall, we have all of these in here where we've got this ngrok URL, right? This here. Well, we don't want to use ngrok anymore. I want to use wanderlust.xyz. So let's go check out what Google has to say. Wait for Netlify deployment. Perfect. So that is done. So now we need to update the URLs to the live domain. So I need to replace all temporary ngrok URLs in the configuration and meta tags with my actual live domain name, because the Farcaster frame must point to its real location. All right. So there's two ways that I could do this. I could edit it directly in here, or I could go back to VS Code, switch this over to main branch. I can close this. And right now it says there's no local changes, but I can go through and let's see here. I can either click the edit button here, or I can do it in VS Code. I'm just going to do it in VS Code because I like the interface a little better. So I need to go to the well-known farcaster.json file and find every instance of this specific URL and replace it with https://wanderlust.xyz. Let's copy that. I'll go over here to my digital garden, copy my URL. Okay, so I just click pull from origin to refresh here, and then now I'm clicking open in VS Studio. And you can see here that we've got this well-known file here, farcaster.json. And now I need to replace all of the HTML here. So just quickly, I had to fetch from the origin. So I had pushed these changes, merged them into my digital garden repository on GitHub. And then now I needed to bring it back into the local GitHub. So I'm going to go in here and replace all of this. So what's cool too is you can do find and click replace. So I can just highlight that section here and then paste in HTTPS and then click replace all. And it'll just do it all in one go for me. Click save. Cool, so that's this section done. Now I need to do the same thing with the node.njk and node.index. So let's go over to index, find, and again, just because I already have this find and replace up, I should be able to just click replace all, and boom. There, it just did it all of my locations here. Save. Okay, so now I need to go back to this one, do the same thing. You can see that there's 3 instances. Replace all. Cool, save. So now we have to introduce proof of ownership of that particular website. So this is where we start to get into the Web3 component, into the blockchain component, because I need to have a wallet that will enable my cryptographic signature to prove that I control both wanderlust.xyz and the Farcaster account that I want to associate it with. So this is where, if we go over to Farcaster, if I go to my settings here, you can see there's these verified addresses. So you can add different wallets here. And now actually when you create a new Warpcast account, there's a primary wallet that is defaulted here. So if you don't have a wallet, you will get one when you create a Farcaster account, so don't worry about that now. But this part might be a little confusing if you're not familiar with Web3 at all. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave me comments and I will answer them. I also have a bunch of guides on getting into Web3 and how this can work. But effectively what we're doing here is we want to prove that my social media account is the same social media account that has ownership of wanderloots.xyz. So really this is just introducing another security layer into building out this frame. So that's an essential part of operating in a secure internet. Okay, so I can go to this URL here, paste that in. You have to be logged in to do this. Okay, and then here you can go and it says enter the domain field, which is just the core URL. Paste, and the Farcaster JSON builder pops up. And I need to click register with Warpcast and sign a message with my wallet. So we have all this information here that I need to change later to generate the farcaster.json for the domain. So I already have this. So I'm going to paste that in here. You can see it pops up with the preview and it's got all this information here, the name, the icon URL. So all of this can be changed later. Really what we're trying to do is build out this account association. So because I have all of this, ignore this for now. I need to register with Warpcast, and that's going to fill this in. That's the same information here. And then we can always change the name and the icon URL later. So let's click register with Warpcast. There we go. I just sent the signature from my phone. So it gave me this really long string of information here. After I update the file, click verify to ensure everything is correct. So I'm going to copy this now. Let's go back to here, copy, open it, and then carefully replace the entire placeholder section with what I just copied. There we go. Click save. Cool. So now that has been saved here. Now I need to commit the changes to rebuild everything to generate the farcaster.json file that can then be verified by Warpcast. So let's go do that. So again, remember to save everything as you go through. Okay, so I just changed a couple things here. I made it Wanderloots Digital Garden. I changed where the icon was going to come from for the fav icon. Okay, now I can click save. So you can change the layout of this later. Let's go over to GitHub. Now we click commit to main, push origin. There we go. So that just pushed this to our GitHub now, which is published. So I should be able to go back to my home. Everything's working fine. And if I paste in this string here, this URL, it pulls up with all the info here. Perfect. So now let's test it in the debugger. So HTTPS, a little nervous. Cool, there we go. So you can see it's preview wanderloots.xyz built by wanderloots.eth. So it pulled in my signature and everything. That's awesome. All right, so that's step one, is to prove that it worked. That's great. So test and debugger, done. I spoke with Gabrielle Ayuso, who is building Warpcast and Farcaster. And actually they just made a change yesterday to the UI of the developer tab. And that makes it a lot easier to do what I was trying to do. So then I went on my phone, and under settings on the Farcaster app on Warpcast, there is an option to turn on developer mode. And then when I did that and refreshed my web browser, this popped up on the side here, developers. And this creates a homepage for all of the apps that you're building, all the mini apps, all the V2 frames. So this is a lot cleaner. This is what Gabrielle just updated yesterday. And you can see there's additional tools on the bottom here. But more importantly, you can see that I now have this tab here for Wanderloots Digital Garden. So if I click on that, it pulls up the Farcaster JSON. And if I scroll down, you can see that it's saying that the Farcaster JSON fetched from my server is valid. So that means that the account association matches the wanderloots.xyz Farcaster JSON. So these two are now linked together, which means effectively that my domain of wanderloots.xyz is now registered here. So if I click open on the app, it pops up and everything works perfectly. You can see it's got the name up here. It's got who it's built by, this is my username on Farcaster. It has a preview splash screen. And one thing I want to show you too, I can't remember if I did this before, but you can go through now and you can build out what you want this preview image to be. What you want, if we go over to the embed section here, what you want this to be. So you can change everything. You can change what this button is. You can change what the title is when you click on it. You can change what the background image is. And basically, they have this tool that's a mini app embed JSON builder. So if you remember, if we go back to VS Code for a second, if we go to the index, this section here is where we had put in new code, and there's the meta name. And we have this whole content equals version next button, all of this stuff here, all of these different components of what ends up being the JSON file in the squiggly bracket. And that is what is displayed right here. So I can go through and use their mini app embed JSON builder. And I can customize anything I want here. So I can change the image. I can change this to be, instead of enter garden, read note. You can see it's automatically changing here. I can get rid of this image and replace it with something else, and it would modify in real time. And then basically what happens is, as I go through and make all these changes, once the preview embed looks like how I want it to look, I can go down to the bottom here and I can copy this meta tag here. So I can press the copy button. I can go back to VS Code and I can replace this entire meta tag here with the new one. Then I can go through the process where I save the file, go over to GitHub desktop, push, make the change, the commit to my main branch, merge it, etc. Or alternatively, instead of using VS Code, I can go directly to my Digital Garden index file here and click the edit button, and then I can just change the meta tag right here. But one thing to note is that I will also need to change it for the note.njk, and that's where, if we go back here, this is using the specific wanderloots.xyz domain. So let's say I went into what is a digital garden, and here again you can see a video here that I've embedded on my Obsidian website. If I copy this and paste this in, you can see it still has the old preview embed here. So it's got this tree icon, and it says open note because it does have it in there. It also has the wrong name for my garden test app. This isn't what I want. So instead I can go into this builder. I can take this same image from the main one, go over to embed and paste this image here. And there you go. You can see how it just updated that. So the reason that it looks like this is because in my existing code, I've already updated the index.njk, but I haven't updated the note.njk. I can change what I want here. So maybe rather than enter garden, I have open note because it's going to be a specific note here. Change the name of my app to Wanderloots Digital Garden or Wanderloots Words, which is the actual name of my website. Splash image. Let's make this the same. Cool. And basically, it's gone through and it said the manually edited data is valid. This now looks like a much better preview than the one I just had. So I can take this here, go back over to VS Code, and then replace this entire meta tag script. And now I can go through and push to make the changes. Or like I mentioned before, I can just go straight to GitHub and change the node.nj file right here and then push it. The advantage of doing all of this in VS Code is you can make multiple changes at the same time and then push all of the changes at once rather than just changing one file at a time and rebuilding the website. Okay, so I'm not going to do that right at this moment. There's one other thing I just want to quickly show you. So if I go down to preview feed embed, if I type in my URL and click fetch, you can see it's still pulling the old version, the non-frame version. So basically what's happened here is because I've already shared this website, this URL on Farcaster before, on Warpcast, all the Farcaster clients already have a cache of what this preview is supposed to look like for this URL. So let's try a different URL. So if I grab Y Digital Garden, paste that in, click fetch, you can see here it's now popping up and it actually has the frame version. So again, I need to go through and change that display so that it actually updates to show the proper file, like I was just showing you over here on the embed. If I paste this in, it still has the wrong image. So I need to update that so that when I paste that in for the first time at Farcaster, it's got the proper preview. I hope that this helps you understand how you can turn your existing website into a mini app, into a V2 frame on Farcaster. If you use the Obsidian publish workflow that I have in my other video, then everything I did here exactly will work for you. So you could also just launch a new website. It could be for sharing your words, for writing. It could be sharing art, could be sharing videos, whatever you want to do. What's cool about a frame is that it literally just opens up a window or a frame into your website so anyone can go see exactly what's there. So you could run a whole video game if you wanted to in this app, and someone would be able to just click this button from the Farcaster feed and they would be able to go in and play the video game within the app. So there's literally no end of possibility for what you can do with this. The absolute easiest way to get going is to use this workflow that I have here on my YouTube channel called How I Publish My Obsidian Notes website for free. This builds that static website with eleventy, and then that makes it really easy to go through like I just did and modify it to become a frame. So you can just take this exact flow and you can build as many websites as you want. And honestly, using AI has made this so much easier. And there you have it. My digital garden website built from Obsidian is now converted into a mini app that can be shareable within Farcaster directly. I hope that this shows you the power of how you can use Google AI Studio and Gemini 2.5 Pro in particular to code for you so that you can convert your ideas into a reality. In the next video, I'll show you how I use this same process to build out a custom image generator for my digital garden website. otherwise known as an Open Graph image generator. So what this does is it will customize every single link in my website to have its own custom image, so that when I share in a social feed, like in Farcaster or in texting or some other social media app, it will automatically pull up that custom image that represents that particular page. Adding images to your social media feed through something like an Open Graph image is one of the best ways to improve engagement and get some conversations going with your writing from your digital garden or whatever your website ends up being. A reminder to please like and subscribe and share with a friend if you find this video helpful, as word of mouth is one of the best ways that I can continue growing my channel. If you're interested in getting a copy of my Obsidian template kit that I've been using to customize and build out my digital garden, then please also consider joining my paid membership. Thank you very much to my existing members, as you've been enabling me to continue making these videos, so I appreciate it very much. If you're interested in learning more about my knowledge management system, how I organize Obsidian and structure it in a way that helps me publish to my digital garden, I recommend checking out my Obsidian and digital gardening playlist here, as it's been very helpful for many people, so I think you'll probably find it helpful as well. If you're interested in learning more about the AI tools that I use as part of my overall ecosystem, then I recommend checking out my AI learning playlist. In particular, I've done some recent videos on the deep research tools that have been really helpful for allowing me to explore topics more deeply and then share those to my digital garden. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned for the next video where I show you how I actually build out that custom image generator.